For our main topic today, I want to cover what I call the magical coin game. In essence, it works like this. There's a stranger sitting across the table from you. They have a quarter in hand. They say, I'm going to flip this quarter. Any money that you put down on the table and bet will be doubled if I get heads. If it flips tails, though, I get to keep half the money that you gamble, and I will play this game with you as many times as you want. Well, let's say for an example, you've got $40 in your pocket. In playing out this example, you bet the $40 and the coin is flipped. You get heads. Well, now your money is doubled. You've got $80. You decide to gamble it all again. The coin is flipped and you get tails. Now you have $40. The coin is flipped for a third time. Now that $40 gets cut in half to 20. Unfortunately, the next coin flip is also tails. So now you're down to $10. Oh, you're so far down. Hopefully you're going to get things doubling again. So you try it one more time and you get $5. Out of desperation, you try one more time and it gets cut in half, leaving you with $2.50 of your original $40. For some reason, you got tails 5 times in a row. While that seems unlikely, that's what happened the first time I tried to work this out, and I decided I'd try it again. You reach into your wallet, you put down another $40, you say, let's try this all over again. They flip the coin and there's yet another tails. So now you have $20. Your luck's got to change. Coin's flipped again, you get heads. All right, you're back to 40. This is good. The coin is flipped for a third time for this iteration, and it's heads again. Yay, you've made $80. On the next coin flip, though, it's tails, and you drop back down to 40. You realize that the odds are not in your favor here. It's random whether you're going to come out ahead or come out behind, and if you were to play this for an infinite amount of time, you're probably going to end up with no gain. But you're under the impression that there's an opportunity here. You're determined to try to figure out how to win this coin game. So you try it a third time with a twist. This time, you take your $40 and you split it into 2 groups. One group you bet on the coin flip. The other group you decide to hold on to. You will neither win nor lose with what you hold. So you bet $20, you hold $20. The coin is flipped and it's tails again. So your $20 that you bet becomes 10. The money that you held is still 20. You now have $30. And this is where things get interesting. You ask for change and you redistribute your $30 into 2 piles of 15. You bet 15, you hold 15. This time you get heads. Now the 15 you bet becomes 30. You have 45 total. You split this up into 2 equal piles of $22.50. And in working through this example, you get lucky and have heads again. Now, the money that you bet has become $45. You have $22.50 you're holding. This has become $67.50. You split this into 2 piles, each equal to $33.75. Again, you get heads. The money you bet grows to $67.50. You have $33.75 in your pocket, totaling $101.25. Now, unfortunately, 25 cents does not divide evenly, so you have to pick one pile to have an extra penny. In this case, you decide to hold the extra penny. So you bet $50.62 and you hold on to $50.63. This time you get tails. So the money you bet becomes $25.31, leaving you with a total of $75.94. You split this pile one more time into 2 piles of $37.97. For the final coin flip of this example, you get heads, doubling your money that was bet to $75.94. Leaving you with a total of $113.91. Now, granted, I had more heads than tails when I was working this rebalancing example, but it was the first time that I tried it. I actually went through the example, betting it all every time, 4 or 5 times before I got something that was interesting to narrate. Now, working through these anecdotal examples doesn't prove anything, so how about we iterate in a spreadsheet to a point of statistical significance? If you're listening to audio only, I'm going to be working through a spreadsheet now where I basically did the example with the flipping of the coin thousands of times. I decided to use $100 in the spreadsheet just to make the numbers a little easier for me. So in this first iteration, we are gambling $100 up front, and we're going to go through the coin flipping experiment 10 times. And we're going to take whatever the value is after the 10th coin flip and put it here at the top of this data table. Each one of these instances in this column is the result from doing the experiment of 10 iterations. There are 1,000 trials total in this column, meaning that I flipped a coin in the spreadsheet virtually 10,000 times to get this histogram. And if you're watching the video, you'll just see the histogram represents a normal bell curve. It's statistically normal and centered around $100. Oddly enough, because there's a 50-50 shot of heads or tails, what ends up happening in the really long run, on average, is the value will bounce up and down and center around the initial invested amount. Did I say invested? I meant gambled. So the most likely outcome is you walk away with what you started with. However, there's equal odds that you end up growing it to some amount. And the further you grow it, the less likely it is, or that you end up walking away with less. And the smaller amounts, like ending with zero, is the least likely. And since it's a bell curve, there's a 50-50 chance that you fall on either side of the $100. You're either going to make money, you're going to lose money. There is no mathematical advantage to playing this game this way. So let's change up the example and make it a little bit more interesting. Okay, the top part of the spreadsheet looks a little more complicated, but I'm effectively taking the $100, splitting it into two piles, holding onto one, and betting the other one. And after the result of the coin flip that follows the betting, I'm going to take my money, pool it together, and rebalance it. You can see that after the first coin flip that's above me right now, the coin was tails. So the $50 that was bet becomes 25. I get 75, and I split that into two piles of 37.50 before the next coin is flipped. And I think it's very funny that the live example at the top of the spreadsheet right now was very unlucky. There were only two heads that doubled the money through the whole thing, but the unlucky sequence here only ended with $22.53. And I think this exemplifies that by rebalancing, we are really chopping off the low end of losing money. In the last simulation, it was quite possible that you end up with less than $10. Meanwhile, in this simulation, ending up with less than $10 is radically unlikely to the point that we don't even see it populate on this iteration of the histogram. Now, if you can see the video, I'm just going to toggle between the histograms so that you can appreciate how the bell curve has changed. The original situation was a pretty even bell curve. With the rebalancing, though, we see that the likely outcome has significantly shifted to the positive. In fact, the median of our new histogram is at $180.20. And that's for a game where we started with $100, meaning that the median outcome is a gain. And looking at this histogram here, it looks like there's 20% chance or less that we end up losing money playing the game this way. And there's an 80% chance-ish that we end up gaining money. I think that means that if we continued to play the game this way, even if we had unlucky stretches, our likelihood of making money goes up. So if we played more than just 10 times, we're probably going to approach certainty that we will make money. Okay, so the first time this particular statistical reality was explained to me, it hurt my head. I still actually have a hard time wrapping my mind around this, and it makes me a little angry. I have two situations where the median of both, either holding on to the money or gambling everything, is what I start with. If I hold on to the money, I'm for sure going to end the experiment with what I started with. And if I gamble everything, the statistical likelihood is that I walk away with roughly the same amount that I started with in the gambling example, right? And there's a 50-50 shot that I either gain or that I lose. But if I simply reorganize my money between these two actions, which each independently have a likelihood of no net gain over multiple iterations, I end up generating a revenue. And that blows my mind. This here, right now, can be somewhat explained by saying the two pools, either holding the money or betting the money, are inversely correlated to an extent. Not perfectly. They don't go up and down by the exact same amount. But when your money grows, that was put on the table, the money in your pocket does not. So there's an inverse correlation there. And when you lose money on the table, the money in your pocket is not lost. In essence, it looks like a relative gain. There's an inverse correlation there. And by rebalancing between the two, there is a statistical likelihood that you gain money over time, that you have a return. And it's my understanding that this is the foundation to asset allocation theory. This is why investing professionals will say, even though equities, on average, as a rule of thumb, outperform bonds, it can be wise to have a balance between equities and bonds if they are inversely correlated to each other. If they likely do the opposite of each other, depending on inflation or market circumstances, then by rebalancing between the two, you can generate a return that is greater than the arithmetic average between the two pools if they were acting on their own independently. Now, there's a lot more complexity when we're talking about the actual investments, and I'm not saying that you have to go out there and rebalance between two different things. The point of the example that I have here, even though it's simple, is a mathematically clean way to illustrate that rebalancing can statistically increase your likelihood of gain. However, there are two things this doesn't prove. This doesn't prove how a portfolio that's rebalanced between two inversely correlated investments is going to behave during accumulation versus distribution. In the example, we had a lump sum and we watched how it behaved while it was rebalanced. We weren't talking about adding money to the pool or taking money out. It's possible that by introducing a behavior in addition, we can alter the statistics. And it's important to note that a good rule of thumb is that the things that are true for the accumulation phase of your life are going to be the opposite in the distribution phase. Mathematics gets turned on its head when you go from putting money into a portfolio to taking money out. And this is a topic that we're going to be exploring more in future episodes in the podcast. So please like, follow, share, and subscribe if you don't want to miss it. And until next week, until next Tuesday, budget bravely and enjoy your hope-filled financial future.